A regulator timepiece design is quite rare nowadays, even though it is centuries old. There are only few brands that focus on providing separate registers for the seconds, hours, and most importantly, and prominently shown on the center dial, the minutes. For example, Chrono Swiss is known for regulator watches in particular, but also others like Patek Philippe, Glashütte Original, IWC, and many more have that type of layout available. Notice something? They are all rather dressy pieces. So it might be, on one hand, quite surprising to hear about a diverse regulator, but on the other hand, not really, since diving focuses so much on the minutes rather than seconds or hours. It is quite a natural fit, don't you think? Regulators were already used in the 1800s, and it was a synonym for very precise watches back then, which were often found as master clocks in workshops, and their dial layout provided less confusion and improved legibility. Now Oris up to this day offers the Meistertaucher or Master Diver line, which features the regulator layout. But it was in 1999 that Oris was actually the first company to ever release a regulator design as a dive watch. And today I want to show you the predecessor of the Meistertaucher, which is this Oris Big Crown Diver Regulator. And in this video I will give you all the details about it. So let's talk about the case and bracelet first. It's a stainless steel case with 40 millimeters in diameter measured across 4 and 10 o'clock. Sometimes you find smaller numbers online, like 38 millimeters, which is not correct in my opinion, since that is only the diameter of the bezel. An error or misleading concept of watch diameter in my opinion that you can often find online. The watch does appear smaller in total, since the whole bezel design is quite broad, which makes the black dial look smaller in comparison. It is 49 millimeters from lug to lug and only 12 millimeters in height, giving it a very sleek look. The stainless steel bezel has a matte finish, while the minute indexes on it are polished, which gives this watch an interesting utilitarian style with a hint of dressiness coming from the coin edge on the bezel. The first 20 minutes on it have additional dots as markers in between the 5-minute intervals to highlight that typical diving duration even further. And of course, it's a unidirectional diver's bezel. The bezel has 60 clicks, which makes each click very distinct and adds a bit of additional security that the bezel will not be displaced by the smallest of knocks, but therefore feels a bit less refined, I think. Additionally on it, we have a threaded, serrated and signed crown, which provides a good grip. I read on Reddit that this model is known for having issues with the threading after several years, but I seem to be lucky. No issues, even though I bought it used. It's roughly 20 years old, and I myself own it now for 2 years already. It has a flat sapphire on top, with, I think, anti-reflective coating on only one side, and the whole watch design is 200 meters water resistant, weighs 122 grams with my aftermarket bracelet, and around 70 grams without this bracelet, which is quite light, I think. It has a lug width of 20 millimeters, and I only have it on an aftermarket watch strap and bracelet options, which is rare for me because I usually tend to favor the original bracelet and straps. But I got this one on an Oris leather strap initially, which didn't last very long. Who knows what this leather strap had to endure before it ended up with me, because usually Oris straps are quite sturdy. The bracelet that I have right now is something that resembles that original Oris bracelet for this watch, which unfortunately is very hard to come by, especially together with the curved end links that the original one has. So I got this very cheap version with straight end links to see if I like the 5-row design of it. It's okay, even though you probably always regret getting such a cheap bracelet, even if it's just for an experiment, because the first link always kind of gets stuck here and just feels a little bit off. And you can also see how it's cheaply manufactured or pressed from the side. So no way around of continuing the search for the original one for me. Until then, I recently opted for a NATO, which is also a fresh start for me, because I have never and do not own any other NATO straps. But I must admit that I like this one a lot. What do you think? Before we move on to the dial, I want to mention that if you just look up the abbreviated reference number Oris 7502, you can find another model with just the same case and bezel, which is the normal Big Crown Diver, if you fancy a cleaner look. Not bad, but less color. All central hands, dated 3, falls a little flat in my comparison. There is also one that has a bit more color, applying the same yellow as my regulator here. Anyway, these two probably would not have caught my eye the same way as this one did. So let's move on. There is a lot going on this small black dial. First of all, it's not completely black, but has a greyish hue in comparison to the black subdials. Speaking of which, the subdials are very asymmetrical. Big Eye you could call the whole constellation, since the hour dial is much larger than the seconds. Additionally, every subdial has its own markers and font, adding to the whole regulator style. In the same mindset, each hand is different in shape, the seconds being skeletonized without loom, while the hour hand is just a yellow loom triangle, and the main focus is on the large central minutes hand. The shape of hours and minutes was chosen carefully, I think, because you would expect some problem with legibility, for example, when the clock hits 3:15. But for one, when you got used to reading a regulator, you know that it's 3:15 when they overlap. And due to the shape, you can still see which direction both hands point. At night, it might be a little bit difficult, even though the watch shows quite some loom. Some numbers at 2 to 4 o'clock are cut off by the hour subdial, something that a few people just cannot stand. And it is in all honesty a bit strange that the minutes are cut off in favor of the hours, because the regulator works so hard to put all the emphasis on the minutes. Furthermore, down here at 6 o'clock we have a white date window, and I wonder if a black date disc wouldn't have looked even better. The minutes markers all around have a greenish hue from the loom, which is why I was tempted to put it on this green-yellow NATO strap in the first place. All in all, a very interesting and unique dial. Let's continue with the caseback. We have a closed stainless steel caseback here. The coin edge around it is continued here as well as on the front bezel, which makes for a nice side profile. Aside from the typical specs of the watch on here, we have the Oris logo right smack in the middle. But let's open this one up. So no red rotor inside? Oris trademarked that one in 2002, which immediately tells you that this watch is older than that. It's the Oris 649 beating away inside of it, and that one is based on an ETA 2836-2. Beats at 28,800 amplitudes per hour, sits on 27 joules and has a power reserve of 38 hours. The same movement was also used later for the early Meistertaucher models, which came in a similar case as my Oris TT1 diver from my very first video, if you remember. Since the other Meistertaucher models came afterwards, they feature the red rotor in contrast. About the price, there is only one active offering that I could find online on eBay from the UK with box and papers for 1,280 euros, which is quite the price in my opinion, but to be fair, this whole model became very rare in the last years. In 2016 there was an offering that went for 850 euros, and that is close to what I paid for mine with a box but without the papers as well, just to give you a bit of perspective. Now that you've seen and heard all of the details, what do you think about a regulator dive watch, or a sporty regulator in general? It is still a rare sight to behold, and I think Oris showed off great design ingenuity when they were the first to release one of those. I would love to know what you think. Thank you for watching the TiME channel, and see you in the next one.